Welcome back to another episode of Sumo Talk Shit with a new guest, a very pretty young lady. was that Hums Up?
A bit hums up.
So unfortunately, Sean can't make it because he's overseas looking at Northern Lights. And today we're going to be doing something very interesting. Not finance, not tech, not consulting, thank God. Finally moving away to something a bit more interesting. We're talking about marketing. So we have Tyrina here with us today. I'll give a very brief intro and then you can...
Correct you if you're wrong.
She's a beastly marketing person. I want to say that she probably worked the hardest out of everyone that I know in uni. Started her own startup, did some strategy intern, did 2 branding and marketing interns pre-uni even. And then year 2, year 3, year 4, just endless LOA, freelance, did an accounting internship, funnily enough. I'm pretty sure it's to clear your...
It was a requirement. I wouldn't have done it if I could.
Yeah, I figured. It's very funny, like risk assurance out of nowhere.
It was the least accounting internship I could do.
But anyways, so graduated 2023, worked at TBWA. So it's a marketing agency.
Advertising agency.
Advertising agency,
Yeah.
Okay. For almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
And then you quit. We'll get to that. And then now you're at a startup, you're doing your own freelance.
Yes.
Okay, you want to give yourself intro?
So I'm Tyrina. So I'm... How old am I? Quick math. Turning 26 this year. Yes. So yeah, I studied accounting and marketing in uni, but accounting clearly wasn't for me. So I went down the marketing route lah. I tried a lot of things in the marketing space because I think in marketing there's many things you can do. You can go agency, you can do in-house, you can be a designer, you can be a strategist.
Okay.
I tried everything basically through all my internships and my roles lah. After doing all of that, I think I realized that what I like the most is doing everything. And so that's why now I'm freelance and doing everything. I do photography, I do content creation, I do strategy, I do branding, everything under the sun.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll ask more about that in a bit. But okay, we're going to start with some rapid fire questions to get to know you better. First question, is Canva cheating?
Yes,
Damn.
I have never touched Canva in my life. Okay, I touched once.
Respect. Is AI cheating?
Yes. To some extent, it's a yes or no. Like, if you use AI for touch-up, I think sometimes it's okay.
Okay.
Because like, sometimes you really cannot get the perfect shot.
Okay.
Like maybe there's just something blocking the way.
Right.
Then you use Gen AI to take it out, that's okay. But if you're saying AI generating an image, that's a cheat.
Anyways, second one, favorite brand that gets it?
Favorite brand that gets it? Oh shit, I don't have a favorite brand that gets it. My own brands, because I do it. Not kidding.
Okay, so nothing comes to mind.
I think I was right.
Check. What's an unpopular opinion of yours? Last one.
I think that all food is the nicest when you steam it only.
All
Food is the nicest when you do nothing but steam it and eat it.
All food is the nicest when you do nothing but sleep and eat.
Like just steam it
Oh, steam.
raw, like steam it as is and eat it is the nicest.
That is unpopular.
So like chicken, salmon, you just do nothing, you just steam it. That's the nicest.
What the fuck? Oh, that's really sick.
I will excuse myself.
No, that's really sick in the head, dude. Okay. Let's move on. So, okay, you mentioned that there's a lot of different parts of marketing. You've done a lot of different roles.
Yeah.
When you say you work in marketing, what does it mean?
In its core and essence, I think marketing really just means finding out what consumers want and giving them what they want. That's the most basic part of it. But because consumer needs can be so different and the way you answer it can be so different, there's a lot of different roles involved. So that's why when someone says they work in marketing, they actually be working in many different roles. Because if you think about it, you have a product, right? So the first thing you need to think about is how you want to sell it and how you want to position it. So that's where a strategist comes in.
Okay.
So they could say they are working in marketing, but they are strategists. But then after strategy, you need someone to execute all of those things. So that's when someone in marketing can be a creative, or they can be like an ad specialist, or they can be like a paid strategist, so they set up ads and stuff. But then at the same time, you also need someone to orchestrate everything because there are so many moving parts, right? So there has to be someone to manage everything. So then that's when someone who says they're working in marketing can actually be like a brand manager or like a social media marketing manager, for example. They're the ones who put everything together.
Okay.
So essentially, when someone says they work in marketing, they could actually be
They're not saying
anything.
much.
They're not saying much. They could be anything. Or they could be doing everything. Who knows?
Okay. So given that there's a lot of different other verticals, whatever you want to call it, how did you decide? Or how was your experience like going through the different ones? You know.
So I think for me, I started from design because when I was in high school, I picked up design. Actually, my very first freelance client was my school. Like they literally commissioned me to design their yearbooks, to design their posters and flyers.
Wait, how do you get that role?
So I designed for my club. You know, like the join my CCA poster.
And they thought it was so good.
And they thought it was nice. Then they asked me like, can you actually design for the school?
Holy shit. Okay.
So I actually designed for the school. So that was my first client.
Shout out to NUS.
NUS, hi! Woo. So Yeah, so I started from design, and I just thought it was quite fun to make nice collaterals. But then, as I did it more, that's when I went into my pre-university internships,
Right.
where I wanted to learn more about how to make design meaningful. So then that's where I joined LTA, which is like government side stuff. I also did in-house stuff, and then that's where I found interesting link between design and brand. It's like when I first touched a bit of what marketing means.
So like the higher level part of it.
Yeah, like slowly touching a bit of the higher level part of it. But I only started to really learn what marketing was, I think, when I came to uni basically, when I started taking mods about marketing. Then I realized that marketing actually includes things like pricing, promotions.
Okay.
There's a very numbers side to marketing also, which I don't
presume you don't. Okay.
I don't know as much.
Okay.
Yeah, so what was the question again?
How was the experience going through the different parts of it?
So my journey went from design to
okay. So you've been moving up the slope in a sense.
Yeah. So the first marketing role I had after I joined uni was a strategist role in a digital agency. Yeah. So when I was there, that was the first time I saw like strategy frameworks being used. I think when you learn it in school, it feels very fluffy, it feels very useless. But actually, I feel that's the most useful thing that I learned in uni that I still use at work now.
For real?
For real. Like the way it shapes your thinking, I think is very important.
Like the 5 M's or whatever nonsense.
Like for example, like when you join strategy, they talk about how your USP, your unique value proposition. I feel like it's such an abstract term that people don't think about. But the basis of marketing a product is finding out that USP and finding out a good USP that you can create everything off. So like I feel like people just pay attention in strategy, yes.
Would you say it's because in class it's very abstract, it's very theoretical, whereas here you're working with actual clients, so you can apply whatever you're...
Yeah.
Right, so it kind of contextualizes the learning.
Yeah, and I think there's also a layer of stakeholder management that makes strategy important. So like when you're in class, you feel like, oh, it's a framework, I follow it, it's fine. But when you do it in the client world, there's like so many people to align, right? You need something clear to help them align on. So that's when frameworks help a lot. So my first marketing role was strat, and then that was also the first time I tried agency.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a small boutique agency.
Right.
So because it's small, you do everything. So even though I was a strat, I also did some design there. I also did a little bit of client management there.
Okay.
And stuff like that, yeah.
So in a bigger, more structured firm, it would be more siloed.
Yes.
Like strategy doesn't touch, not Canva, Photoshop.
Yeah.
And the different parts, you just work on your own part, that's it.
Yeah, so that's what TBWA was like.
I mean, okay, I guess I will just kind of use the context of your strategy work at TBWA.
Yeah.
What's a typical day look like, or a typical week?
Okay, so for TB, at TB, my role was called a brand account executive.
Okay.
So it's not, we are not a strategist. We are more of the orchestrators of everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, rundown is, you can imagine, so in an agency, there's a few main roles. Strat is one. Then there is creatives, the ones who shoot stuff, design stuff, write stuff.
Okay.
And then there's us now, which is account execs and project managers. So we are kind of like the people who figure out like what to do and how to do it.
Okay.
But we don't actually do it. Because actual doing is like for the strats and the creatives to do.
So you're like the liaison in a sense, in the middle?
Kind of. Facilitate and liaison.
Okay, like you bridge the client and their needs versus the strategies,
what we can do.
the content. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we do lah.
Okay.
So actually what I did was a lot of stakeholder management.
Oh.
And a lot of email writing. And a lot of phrasing things nicely and a lot of...
ChatGPT.
No, ChatGPT. Okay. All real emotion only.
That doesn't sound very marketing in some sense.
I think, so the thing about account management is that you're not the one doing anything, but you are the one who needs to understand everything. Actually, I feel it's the easiest for people to learn when you are new to marketing lah.
Okay.
Because, for example, like, you're not the one writing the strategy, but you need to read it and make sure that it's aligned with what the clients need. So in a way, you are still thinking about strategy. You're still thinking in that mind space. Similarly, because we're the ones who also help with reviewing the creative work and making sure it goes before it goes to the clients.
Right.
So that's also when we need to look at creative work creatively. We have to have a sensing of what works.
Yep.
And then we have to align that to what the client's brand should look like, for example.
Okay.
So you need to have a bit of a design sense, you need a bit of a copy sense, you need a bit of strategic sense also.
It's a bit of everything like
yeah, so I think that's the best role for you to experience everything in marketing.
Okay, so you mentioned that you do a bit of everything. So what does it look like from like, so you go to work at 9, 10?
Back when I was at TB, so you go to work at like 9,
Okay.
and then you clear your emails first, because I think as an accounts manager, you are the one between the clients and the creatives.
Okay.
So you need to always be very on the ball with emails. The first thing you do when you enter the office is always check your emails and then see what you need to prioritize for the day. Because I think another thing about accounts is that since you're orchestrating and facilitating everything, you need to have very good time management.
I guess you have multiple accounts at the same time, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
sometimes you have multiple, sometimes you have only one. It depends on the size of your client and your agency. Because you're the one who is facilitating everything, so you need to prioritize for your team and your clients also lah. Because there's so many things to review, so many things to do, right? So you're prioritizing for everyone, not just yourself. So it's always like coming in, looking at your emails, prioritizing, and then it's meetings after meetings throughout the whole day. Because you can imagine, right? There's so many people involved in creating one output. Like imagine like the ad you see on the MRT station, right? There's a strat who thought of how to do it. There's a copy who wrote the text. And then there's like a art director who decided how to shoot it. And there's a content creator who shot it. And then sometimes there's third party people like production houses who are actually the ones who do professional photography for it. So there are so many stakeholders involved, right? And you're the one who's facilitating everything. So you can have like a meeting in the morning with a strategist. You guys discuss how to approach the brief. Then you guys maybe write the brief together, or the strat writes the brief. And then once the brief is done, you need to take it to the creatives and like brief the work into them. And then after they're done, you need to review it together with the creative directors. So it's like a lot of meetings in a day for a single project.
Right.
And there's so many projects going on lah. But every meeting is different because you're reviewing different work used for a different purpose.
So I guess that's the fun part about
Yeah,
it.
so that's the fun part about it. I think the fun part about agency is you do a lot of different projects at once.
Okay.
So if you are like someone who is easily bored about doing only one thing for the whole day, then agency is probably the right place.
We all overheated, camera included, so I
Beautiful
think it's still as
location.
scenic. Okay, yeah, so you start at 9, you've got emails, meetings. The upside is that you do different things every day. It's one of the downsides to working hours.
Actually, okay, I think it's quite commonly known, like to people who are interested in joining marketing, that
Okay.
when you join agency, the hours are generally longer than when you're in-house.
Okay.
So the work-life balance is a bit lesser in agencies.
So generally longer is a very vague term, Tyrina.
For me, in my experiences, I think usually my days end maybe sometimes around 9. When there are big projects or rush projects, sometimes it can end a little bit later than that. But the thing about agency, right, is that when you compare agency to in-house, I feel the energy in agency feels very different. Because when you stay until 9, you're staying with your colleagues. The whole team stays together, right?
Okay,
and
right.
in general, agency vibes are a bit more vibrant. People tend to feel a bit more like friends. There's a higher chance that you'll be friends with your colleagues.
Because you're all going through shit together.
Yeah, you trauma bond together. So like, even though you do long hours, sometimes it still feels quite fun. Sometimes it feels like a school project. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean. I get
Like there are some days where I
I've been
feel
in school fish tank
it's
until
like
2 a.m.
it's like we work overtime, but we order
Yeah.
dinner in together, then we eat Korean food together, then we go back and work.
But the copium is like
So you kind of feel like it's a school project, so sometimes it's still quite fun lah. But it's still tiring. There were also days where I OT'd, like not with team on my own lah, just to clear my work.
Right.
Like that.
So that's a bit rough.
Yeah.
Would you say it's like 1 a.m., 2 a.m.? That's possible.
Possible.
Possible, okay. Okay, so I guess, is there anything that people misunderstand about marketing?
I feel like a lot of people don't really understand like what marketing as a whole really means.
Okay.
So like generally when they think of marketing, they think of sales actually. The first misconception people have is they think of sales.
So as in like talk to the person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think they're still thinking of a very traditional way lah, which is the best way to sell a product is speaking to someone.
Okay.
So that's why some people still think marketing is sales.
I mean, there are some divisions where it's like marketing and sales, right?
Yeah.
They call it that. Or marketing and BD.
Yeah. Another misconception is people think that marketing is just nice visuals.
I feel like this is the uni misconception.
Yeah.
Like you go into CCA, marketing department just means Canva machine. Okay. Wait, true, right? Back me. True. Not ahead. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like most marketing jobs in a uni CCA,
Yeah.
or like the camps, whatever, like the marketing comm, 80% of it is designing. It's true.
Yeah.
Collateral.
Yeah, it's true.
No, which I feel like it's very underrepresentative
Yeah.
of what real marketing is.
It's true. So like a lot of people, I think it's similar to how I started my journey, right? Initially when I started, I also thought marketing equals design. Or marketing equals posters. I think when you stay in the industry a bit longer, when you try other roles, then you realize that I feel the beauty in marketing is the strategy and the mindset that you have when you approach a brand.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
So more of the big picture.
It's more of the big picture because I feel when you have the big picture view, it also helps you to go further comfort in your role.
Right.
Because like, for example, if you join a marketing role, but you think about it from a perspective of nice visuals only, you can't really communicate what the brand does to people with photos.
Okay.
But when you understand like the strategy, then you can actually create content that's like specific to them or like specifically brings out what is special about the brand.
Okay.
Then that's when marketing becomes meaningful and not just like a nice photo with a nice font.
I mean, my take on this is just that because content is so saturated nowadays, like nice photo, nice font is everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, so now it's really about how do you adapt it to your brand and tell your story. Rather than like 40 years ago where you have a nice picture, like
It's like, oh,
that's all
thanks.
that's all you need, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct,
very cool.
correct.
Okay, let's talk a bit about your own journey. So you came from NUS High, aka math science, whatever, right?
Yes.
You took accounting. How do you end up in marketing?
So I think I went to NUS High, but like I mentioned just now, my design journey actually started in NUS High. So I think for me, growing up, I was always interested in both.
Both left and right brain.
Yeah. So I enjoy doing things that require a bit more like calculation or a bit more strategizing or a little bit more.
Like the analytical side
Yeah,
of
so
things.
analytical is the word I was looking
The
for,
more
yeah. So,
concrete.
correct. So I
Yeah.
enjoy analytical things, but I also enjoy aesthetic things.
Okay.
And things that look good lah. So that was the way I approached it when I was younger. So that's why when I went to NUS High, actually I took literature.
Okay.
And then I joined like dance, and then I always helped them do designs for their posters. When I went to uni, I still took accounting because I felt like that was the safer path in case but my graphic design passion wasn't enough to get me a job. So I took accounting and business lah, so that I still have a way out in case. Yeah, so accounting, I mean, I can't say I enjoyed accounting. My accounting degree was just there.
Okay.
I just did
just
it.
a requirement.
Yeah, I just did it for
Yeah.
laws. But the biggest takeaway for me, I think, was doing business in SME. Again, going through all of the things like business concepts, strategy. And then when I finally took marketing as a course, including things like branding, I took things like advertising, then that's when I realized that, oh, actually these things are quite interesting. And there's a space for it to have both analytical and aesthetic sense inside.
Right.
For marketing. Yeah. So that's
And
why
that's why you moved up the chain also, right?
yeah, so that's why I went through trying all of the different things that I did.
Okay.
I tried a lot of things lah.
You did. You
Like
really did.
when people say what job should I find in marketing, there's usually like, oh, you want in-house, you want agency, you want to work in private or public, or you want to do like strategy, designer, or you want to be a BM. I've done literally all the permutations I've tried. Different types of agencies. I've tried branding, digital marketing, I've tried advertising. Yeah, so I tried a lot. But I feel like you never know what you don't know. So by trying a lot, it helps you find out what you like and what you don't like.
Do you think it was necessary? Or like what spurred you to? Because you were doing like back to back, you were doing like multiple jobs at once. Like, you had like freelance going on for 2 years while you were interning.
Necessary. I don't think it's necessary to try everything under the sun like what I did. It's just that for me, I had interest in all the things that I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's good for you to try everything that you have an interest in sparingly. Like, I don't think anyone would be as interested in everything as I was lah.
Okay.
So, like, if for example, you are trying to decide between creative and strat, then you can try creative and strat. But if you're not interested in account management, you don't have to try account management.
Okay.
Right? That's what I'm trying to say.
But it's just that you really just had this interest in
Yeah.
all these different fields.
Yeah. Because like my interest in the field was as a whole. Like I just really like creative stuff. And I
Yeah.
like storytelling for
I
brands.
can see from Tongkan.
Yeah.
So it's a clothing brand she has. I have a
still have?
shit. I should have brought the shirt. I should have worn it. Crap, my bad.
Yeah.
It's on Instagram, I think.
It's still on Instagram and just not running.
But yeah, and I think you had that whole like story behind
Yeah.
what the brand's supposed to be, rather than just a design. Okay, back then when you were looking into marketing, right? What did you perceive to be like the peak career outcomes? You know, is it like marketing in a FMCG, in a tech firm, in an MNC agency?
I think in uni,
Yeah.
in SMU,
Yeah.
back when I was still studying marketing.
Yeah, let's talk about the gross SMU rat race kind of
Yeah.
mindset.
So back then, I think it changes over the years, but back then for my batch, the most successful role for marketing was FMCG.
Okay. Unilever, P&G.
Yes.
Right.
I never knew why, because personally I never chased it.
Okay.
But I think it maybe it's something to do with brand name.
I understand they pay a bit better also, right?
Pay is one thing. I
Okay.
think also the supposed exposure you get. Because I think the perception is if you work with a bigger company, you get more exposure.
Okay.
Because they have bigger budgets, they do crazier things.
Okay.
You have more room to see the whole breadth of what marketing can do
Right.
as compared to if you work for a small company.
Right.
That's the perception that people have lah. But I never actually chased it. I don't know. Personally, I feel like there is no single peak for marketing.
Okay.
Because the industry itself is so multifaceted, right?
Right.
If you are into creatives, your peak might be being a creative director in an agency, because that's when you get to decide on what a brand should look and feel like. And then you can guide your junior creatives to follow that. But if you are into in-house, then your peak as a creative could also look like starting a brand of your own, or like being the branding head for an in-house company.
Like running your own.
Yeah. So it really differs based on which path you choose and what discipline you are doing.
Okay.
But I think for most of my friends in marketing, not everyone, but for most of my friends, their hallmark of success is usually two things. One is working for the brand that they really, really like,
Okay.
or starting their own thing.
Oh, starting their own startup, their own company.
Yeah. Because it's all creative field.
Right.
So you get the most happiness as a creative when you create stuff for someone you really love, or you have all the freedom to create anything you want.
So if you really love yourself, that's the best.
Then you get both in one.
But were people doing this? Are people actually doing their own thing, starting their own brands? Yeah, even in the Singapore tertiary scene.
It wasn't common last time, but I think now it's getting more common.
Yeah, okay.
Because I feel like besides starting their own thing, like freelancers are more common now also.
Like UGC, whatever, right?
Because I think last time it used to be like, let me get a job, let me just work up the ladder. But now I think people tend to want a balance of what they want to do and making ends meet lah. So I think more people are being more ambitious and being more daring to start their own thing.
So as a follow-up to that, how did you end up in a marketing agency? And who would you recommend it for and advise against?
So I think for me, after trying everything under the sun while I was still in uni, when it came to finding my job, I was at the point where I felt like there were still things I wanted to learn. I felt like agency was the best place for me to learn. Because of like all the things you mentioned just now, right? Like you get to experience, you get to see everything happening, you see the whole chain, you try different accounts. So that's why I was thinking once I graduated, I wanted to go back to agency. Another reason why I chose to go back to agency was because the role that was offered to me at the point was a social specific role.
Social specific?
Yeah. So which means that I was focused on the social account for that client.
So what's the difference? What do you mean by social account?
So basically, as a brand manager, you work in the advertising agency for a client, but your projects are different. So you could be working on brand projects, which is things like for full-blown ads, brand films, or like, let's say, out-of-home ads. Those are more branded stuff. And then the agency that I was working for, and for the client that we're working for, we had a team dedicated for social because they were trying to grow their social presence.
As in like social media?
Yes.
TikTok, Instagram.
Yes.
And
I think now also social, I felt like social is a very important channel now for ads and for brands. I think over the past 2 years, it really took up.
Hence why we are.
Hence why we are doing this. Yeah. So that's why I felt like it was good to specialize in social at that point of time. And the client was a client that I really liked.
Oh, so everything kind of aligned now.
Yeah, so everything
you wanted
aligned.
to learn, the kind of experience you wanted to pick up, client as well as the place itself.
Yes.
Yeah,
so that's why I chose that role.
So my understanding is that you go to agency, like what you say, you want the exposure, you want to learn quick. What are the downsides, or who would you not recommend it for?
I think actually I would have not recommended it to the me when I went in at that point of time. Funnily enough.
Wow, this some like time travel shit.
China from 2023, don't go. No, I'm kidding. I mean, because like you mentioned, like agency, you get to learn a lot of things. And I think it's a good place if you really love creatives, but it's also a dangerous place if you really love creatives. Because when you really love your work, you put in a lot into your work. And agency itself already tends to take up a bit longer than a bit more of your day as compared to others. And if you really love your work, you will put in even more. Right? And I think this is a bit, I wouldn't say it's controversial, but it's something that people don't think about, which is when you're in-house and you work as a marketing person, your KPI is to do your job, market the brand well. Right? But when you're an agency, because you have more than one client, your KPI is not just marketing the client well, but marketing it so well that you get new business. Or marketing is so well that they choose to spend more money with you.
Because end day is a sales business, right?
Yes.
For the agency lah.
Yeah. So because it's a sales business, doing 150, if you do 150, you'll be encouraged to do 200. You know what I mean? So because of that, then if you really love your job and you keep doing more and more and more, you burn out lah. Which is what happened to me lah. Yeah.
Happy for you that you're out.
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm still burning.
That's interesting. But that's interesting though.
Yeah.
It's a good place to learn. and to experience all these things, but also a dangerous place for someone like that
Yeah.
if they can't set their boundaries well and they get very lost in the sauce.
And I think, yeah, it's dangerous if you don't know how to set your boundaries. I mean, to some extent, it did teach me to set my boundaries.
Right.
But it taught me that through me
pain
burning
and
out.
yeah, okay.
So I think it's suitable for people who already know how they want to balance their lives and have a. Some people just have a stronger pull
That's so
away from
tricky
work.
though. I feel like as a first year,
It's a bit hard.
it's very hard to find that sense of self, right?
Yeah. I think so. That's why also it's important to join. If you're joining agency, it's very important to sense out the team you're joining.
Okay.
Because when you're so junior, you don't know how to balance. But if you have a manager that helps you to balance, or a manager that encourages you to know when to stop,
Yeah.
then I think that helps you a lot.
Okay. So this is like before you even join, if possible.
Yeah, because I think in agencies also, the hiring process, most of them will try to make sure you speak to your team.
Okay.
Because I think agency, like we mentioned just now, is more collaborative.
Right.
It feels a bit more like friends sometimes. It's a bit more community vibe. So your vibe and personality matters quite a
Yeah,
lot.
for sure. Especially because of creative role as well.
Yeah. So through that, I think you can sense already whether it's a good fit.
So segue here into compensation.
I'm shaking.
No need to, throw numbers. This is like roughly speaking, what does it look like for this industry? Because okay, I'm gonna say first, my impression of it is that marketers are overworked and underpaid. That's just my impression of things, right? But like, what would the range look like? Maybe from like agency or in-house or FMCG. And do you think it's fair? Broadly, like just some Glassdoor numbers.
So generally, if you work in FMCG or in-house, you tend to get probably a little bit more.
Yep.
Maybe like high 3s to 5 sometimes.
Okay.
Then generally for an agency, it depends on your role. So if you are a BM or strat, usually it's about maybe 3s.
Okay.
Sometimes creatives, you can get a bit more depending on your portfolio. That one is a bit more subjective.
Okay.
Yeah, but usually it's about that range.
Okay.
I mean, for the difference between in-house and agency, the way a lot of people rationalize it is that when you join agency, you have more opportunities for learning.
Okay.
So it's kind of like they're investing in you.
Your exit ops are better lah.
In a way.
Okay.
Because I think usually people who come out for agency are quite well sought after. Because you have broader
You've worked on
experience.
everything,
You are clearly used to a fast-paced, dynamic environment. And usually their skills are very transferable. So it's kind of like that little investment in you.
So that's how they justify it, lah.
Yeah.
That's how they rationalize it to the copium, right? Okay. This is my own personal question. Marketing generally, I think it's kind of a known thing that you get paid less than the market average for other firms. Like if you look at employment survey, right, median for I'm so sorry. Median for SOB is about 4.4.
I always try to not look at it.
Why do you think it's still going on? Why do you think it still happens? And why do people accept it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it goes back to the point that people don't understand the full impact that marketing can bring.
Okay.
I think people still see marketing very much as a purely creative thing. They don't see the analytical side of it and the actual impact that it brings to businesses.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, like a business without any marketing,
Is dead.
their revenue, everything will be a lot lower.
Yeah.
They get a lot less exposure. But
Right.
I think because people think marketing is nice visuals, creative stuff, Canva, whatever. So they don't realize the impact that you have if they don't have it.
Okay.
And clearly because of that, when a boss wants to hire someone, if they think it's not as important, they won't put in as much money.
I think it's also a bit hard to quantify
Yeah.
the impact that marketing has, right? Like how much of it is attributed to this creative agency versus okay.
I mean, there are ways to quantify it actually. There are ways to really track your metrics,
Yeah.
to see how much a social campaign can help to bring, or how much an out-of-home campaign can help to bring. But a lot of it, to actually track this is also a cost.
Yeah, okay.
So a lot of businesses don't go into that level as well.
Right.
So
Okay.
many a times it's like, how well your marketing does is also a vibe.
There's no clear ROI
Yeah.
that they can refer to.
Yeah.
Okay. Given all that, now you're freelance.
Yes.
Right. So you're just working for yourself, working with clients.
Uh,
How's the change been and how's the experience been?
I think going completely freelance feels like I'm working not in an agency but as an agency.
You are the agency. Tyrina
I am
is
now
the
an agency.
Everyone look for Tyrina. Okay, but yeah.
So because, like I said just now, I like to do a lot of things. I like to do a range of things. So now I get to do a range of things.
Okay.
So for me, it's like I like to do basically my services are things like photography, I do content creation, I do branding and strategy. So what I do now is I always have a mix of clients where at one point in time I can work on branding, strategy, content creation, and social media at the same time.
Yeah.
So like one client for
It's the full
branding,
chain, like end to end.
but all different clients.
Ah, okay,
Because
okay.
I think the thing about smaller people.
Smaller clients, firms.
No, like for
Huh?
freelancers.
Oh, okay.
So clients usually go to big agencies for full suite.
Okay, got it.
But when you hire a freelancer like me, it's lower chance that you will trust me to do full suite straight away.
Okay,
So like my clients come to me for project basis
right.
or like a retainer but only for one aspect.
Okay,
So for example, now I have a few social media clients, I have a branding client, I have a lot of ad hoc event photography, product photography things.
okay.
So for me, it's like in 1 week I can do many different things, use many different skill sets, which to me
And you
is,
love this part of it.
yeah, it's my favorite part.
Yeah. Okay. Not recommended for anyone who just wants to sit down, crank out a piece of work for 5 hours, 6 hours.
Okay, if you prefer to focus on one thing, I wouldn't recommend going freelance.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like I'm editing a video now, but later I need to start doing strategy. So your brain needs to switch
Yeah.
quite often.
Okay.
And because of that, sometimes you kind of want to keep doing things. Because like, I think as a freelancer, once you get the momentum to work, it's very hard. You don't really want to stop because once you stop, then you are scared you cannot get the momentum back again.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just me.
I think you're just a workaholic, dude.
I think maybe it's just me. Maybe
Good,
if
good,
you're
good for your clients, man. I'm happy for them that
yeah, so like once you find momentum you cannot stop, then you just work very long hours then you burn out
but at least you're working for yourself.
But it feels different because the output is much higher.
Oh, what do you mean?
So for example, when you work when you work for somebody, you can work the whole day, and you only let's say get that certain amount of output for one client.
Okay.
But when you are like freelance like this, you get to plan and manage your schedule.
Right.
So let's say you can choose to put like maybe one big project and a few small projects in one day.
Right.
So in one day you actually get like 5 things done
Okay.
instead of one thing, which
And
feels very fulfilling lah.
And I guess like there's less barriers, less red tape.
Yeah, that's right.
You can just kind of blast through.
Okay, you still have barriers because you're
Through the
still
client, right?
eventually answering to your client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're the boss lah.
Before it goes, I'm the boss lah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
approve my
You go
work.
to them, you're like, yes, please.
This work has been approved
By me. Okay,
by
okay,
me.
okay.
Yeah.
Is that why you left your role at the agency?
Yeah, so I think the reason why I chose to leave my agency was because I felt while I was at the agency, I was also doing freelance projects.
You were sorry?
I was also doing freelance
Okay.
outside of it, right?
Right.
And then the more I did it, the more I felt like I wanted to have that variation in the things that I do in a day.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I chose to leave. And also I felt like I learned a lot when I was there. And I felt like I had learned enough when I was
You're ready.
ready to try and do my own thing. Of course, if it didn't work out, then I will always go and find a job again.
Okay.
But I felt like if not now, then there wouldn't be a better timing.
True.
Also
Okay.
because still young when I quit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been 1 year so I haven't grown that much older. But like, no liabilities yet, no worries yet. So I thought it was a good time to just try lor.
Okay, so on that note, would you recommend a uni kid or fresh grad rather than just tunnel vision on corporate? Do you think this is a viable path?
The two people behind the camera are example that it can be viable.
No, but yeah, would you how would you think about it? How would you talk to a junior about this?
I think I feel like if a junior came and said that to me, I would probably ask them if they firstly know what they want to do already.
Okay.
But not in the sense of like usually when you're uni, people ask you if you know what I want to do. They mean it in a very like specific, like I want to be a banker or I want to be a creative director, very specific route. But I think for me, it's more of like, what aspect of marketing do you want to focus on?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, is
Or
it
like,
strategy? Is it design?
or what aspect of marketing do you like the most that you want to focus on for your career? Because if you don't know that yet,
Yep.
then I would suggest still getting a job first.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like the marketing world is so subjective. You don't know what you don't know until you actually try it.
Okay.
Like initially when I started, I thought I wanted to be a designer only.
Yeah.
But like once I go in and see, actually I like content creation more. Or like I see that actually maybe I like strategy more.
Yeah.
So I think having an experience in a job helps you to realize what you want and what you don't want. It's very important lah. But if through uni and everything you already know, like, oh, I really like social, I really like content creation, then by all means just do your thing lah.
Okay.
Because I have friends also who while in uni they were studying business with me.
Right.
They started their own freelance thing for video.
Right.
Or like they always take photos. They became full-time photographers after graduation.
Okay.
Didn't need to find a job, just do their thing.
Yeah, just
super
continue what they're
busy,
doing.
super hot. So it's possible, it's really viable.
Okay. So if you don't know, you haven't explored yet,
Yeah.
corporate's still a good learning environment for you to get out there and fuck up and then bang your head. But if you're already relatively certain, I guess, and you have some traction, you got some experience, just go for it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, rapid fire again. For the just
My
the
brain.
practical, no, the practical side of things. Not about you. What's your advice? Okay, what's most important for an undergrad to break into marketing? Is it, I'm guessing GPA doesn't really matter that much. Your portfolio? But what kind of portfolio? Like, is it internships? Is it like freelance work?
So the thing about marketing is, like we said, it's very framework and mindset focused, right? So actually what people look out for when they look at your portfolio is not your visuals,
Okay.
but it's your thought process.
Okay.
Because what people look for in marketing is not, they don't look for art, they look for design. So they're looking for something that is not just nice but also functional and meets clients' needs.
Okay.
Right? So the most important thing is the portfolio that shows that you have that thinking process.
That I can adapt my design for my client.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
for the project.
I'm designing for my client, but not designing something that looks nice with photos from the client. Is what they will try to look for. If
Okay.
you're a creative lah.
Okay.
If you're into strat or if you're into brand management, it's a little bit more iffy because there's no portfolio you can show. Like when you apply for brand management, all you can give is your past experience.
Right.
So for that is to showcase that you have good time management skills, you can multitask, you have good stakeholder management, which is very important.
Okay.
Then for strat, they will ask you things like what's your favorite brand, which I couldn't answer just now. They will ask you like what's your favorite brand, what you like about the brand, or they'll ask you like how would you want to market for this brand.
That was a big L just now, man. But anyways, it's okay.
I'm pretty sure I have a favorite brand, but I couldn't think about it.
Okay, like for me, I'll say like Wendy's.
My brain overheated just now.
Fair. It was hot.
We can run back to this at the end.
Okay, at the end.
I think I'll remember by then. But yeah, so if you're strat, they'll ask you those things. So again, it's the thought process.
Okay. So it's about kind of what they're looking for within their role.
Yeah.
And then how you demonstrate that in your, I guess,
In
more of
your
your past
own
experiences.
capacity.
Not
So
so much your GPA or that.
Even if, let's say, you did marketing for a camp, because I used to use that when I
We had nothing else.
when I had nothing else, I
Yeah.
used like voice personality hunt marketing exec. Or I used like Inspira camp marketing exec. Things like that. Because those show that you kind of had a touch of working with stakeholders, like designing for a purpose, designing for... As in,
it's fair, it's true,
for
it's true,
event,
it's
it's
true, I
for
get
a brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the things that they look out for.
Okay.
Oh, even personal projects.
Right.
So I've seen some portfolios from creatives that the brands like the hiring managers like that, which is like, you don't, let's say you don't design for IKEA, but you like IKEA, right? So sometimes in their portfolio they just do like, oh, I tried to ideate a advertising campaign for IKEA,
Okay.
and then they talk about the thought process and the design.
So it's
They
like
like
an
that.
imaginary kind of project,
Correct.
but rooted in reality.
Yes, those are good, and I think it helps you practice also.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Related to our short, what to do if you don't have a summer internship. Anyways.
Yeah, if you don't have anything to do, just
Do your own thing.
portfolio.
Create your own thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what's a good way to prepare for like the hiring process or the interview then?
Hiring process, right?
Let's say I'm applying around now, or I'm prepping for next year or year 2. What can they start doing now?
First thing is your portfolio and your experiences.
Yep.
That's for sure lah.
Okay.
I think you don't need to talk about that. 'Cause talk about
Okay.
it already. Another thing is to understand who you're applying for. So like, let's say if you're going to an agency, familiarize yourself with the work that they do.
Okay.
And because every agency, no matter how big, there is a vibe to the work that they create.
Okay.
There's always an edge that they try to bring. Yeah.
Okay.
So for example, for TBWA, our edge was disruption.
Disruption.
Yes.
Okay.
So we always try to bring a fresh take on a brand
Okay.
rooted in a consumer's need.
Okay.
It's always about disruption.
Cool.
So
It's like the personality of each
the personality is like that.
agency.
So
okay.
if you apply for that place, of course you have to know that it's about disruption.
Right.
And when you're asked about like how would you approach something, it has to be something that's out of the box and fresh and has an element of that.
So align yourself to the culture of the place you're working
Yeah.
with. You're applying for.
And actually most of these agencies, because their vibe or their approach is their proprietary USP, It's always on their website. So you just need to literally just Google.
ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on.
You can just Google ChatGPT and then
Simping. Okay.
and then you can see what is their framework and their approach. And then that's where you can learn about them. And it also helps you understand if they're the right place for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think kids don't care that much nowadays.
I
I mean,
care.
they should, but they don't. You know what I mean?
You should care about it. Okay,
You
for
get a
internship,
role-
maybe not lah, but for your job, I think you should care about it.
Fair? Okay.
Yeah. Then also talk to people who are from the place. That's
Right.
also very important
So
because
networking,
because the vibe of the place is important. So you have to speak to
screening your
them and ask
manager.
them. Yeah.
Right. I think we can't get away from that no matter where we go. La.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's close off. 3 truths about marketing you've learned the hard way.
This question is so difficult.
Okay, 2 truths. Discount. 33% off.
I need to think.
Pricing. Or things that you learn about marketing like the hard way.
Like working for your dream brand is always not that great.
Oh, I like that.
I think it's maybe not that great. So
It's like don't meet your heroes.
yeah, it's kind of like don't meet your heroes because a lot of people fantasize about working for big brands because they are so established. Their stuff are always so nice and so polished, right? So you want to create the same things for them. But you have to understand that strong brand comes from a lot of discipline and a lot of being very particular and very specific about what you create.
Right.
So chances are you won't get to really go crazy and go fully creative on a brand that is so huge.
Yep.
As compared to if you work in a smaller brand.
Right.
Because smaller brands have more freedom for you to play with. Not that you can do things that are not right, but you can try more things. Yeah. And people are more open to...
We do whatever the fuck we want. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get it. Whereas if you're like a big school, big institution, you have a lot of like brand guidelines, you have a lot of like controls.
And it's valid because you need to be very careful when you reach that place. So that's why don't meet your heroes. And also the second thing is, it's not always like working for a startup and a small brand when you're in marketing is sometimes a good idea lah, I would say. Of course, there are downsides where it's like you end up doing everything, you can get overworked also. Yeah. But because it's smaller, more room to play, you actually get more ownership.
Exposure, right.
Yeah, and you tend to have a bit more of a say on things like strategy.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you work in-house as a marketing manager, higher chance that you touch the numbers part lah. So if you're not a big fan of numbers, then maybe think about it. Read the JD carefully. Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, favorite brand?
I still haven't remembered what it is. Can you edit later and post? I like
Low
that. Later you put the brand photo here.
Or like the Kanye West photo.
This is my favorite brand.
One idea or new thing that you learned recently. Anything, not marketing related.
New thing that
Something cool, something interesting you came across.
Shit, I've just been working recently.
Marketing interest rates. Interest drops. After this.
Recently, I learned that health is wealth. Oh, my specs almost dropped. Yeah.
Why? How about?
No, because like for me, I work a lot, right? As I mentioned.
She said that she works 16 hours a day on weekends.
Just now we were just walking, then he was like, "Oh, so what was your day actually look like?" I'm like, "Oh, I work 16 hours a day."
Wake up, sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, so my day is I wake up, then I work, right? Then after I work, I get ready to go to the office. On the way to the office, I'm working. Then I reach the office and then I'll work. And then I get off work, I go home. And then I work at home before I sleep. That was my days lah. But then through that, I learned that health is wealth lah. Because I used to feel like I have all the energy under the sun to do everything. But then I realized that when you are not in the condition or when you're tired, the stuff that comes out is different. Or like you can take very long to create the same thing that you could have created much faster.
Right.
Or it just doesn't hit the same way.
Like your outputs are just not as fresh.
Yeah. And so recently I've been making a point to go out into nature. And like touch some grass and like enjoy some vitamin D. And it really changes the way I see things sometimes.
Natural
like
light.
The creative output is different.
True, okay.
Health is wealth.
But you didn't fall sick or anything lah.
I did lah.
Oh, okay, that too. Okay, good lesson. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to us. Yep. Or if you skip all the way to the end, thanks for opening the video. I think it helps. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, and more importantly, subscribe to our Telegram channel, t.me/sumokamlo. We drop updates, we drop tips, and look out for more things coming, man. We have a previous episode on investment banking as well, so you can check that out. And we have more things coming up.
Yay!
Thank you.